Logical morning. Welcome to Vidikya Explained, the Hindu newspaper analysis. Today's session will have following segments. First, overview of today's newspaper. Second, must-know topics and explanation. Third, quiz time with 5 important questions. So starting with the first segment, the overview of today's newspaper. The first article here is multi-phase elections and UPC's 57% turnout in last round. This is not important for your exam perspective. Another article is Modi raises plight of Indian students with Zelensky. So it is related to the evacuation of Indian citizens from the Ukraine. So there is not important article in this page. In this page also no important article. Yes, this article, this is important here. It says Microsoft India's largest data center in Hyderabad. So you have to remember that Microsoft India's largest data center in Hyderabad. And another important article is sealed cover jurisprudence is appalling. In this article, we'll discuss about Article 19 of the Constitution of India and judicial review as a basic structure of the Constitution. So then another important article is Working Women Too with the Dream of Good Child Care. So today, that is 8th March, is International Women's Day. And the theme of this year's International Women's Day is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. So this is, you have to remember what is the theme of International Women's Day. That is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. So this article talks about the importance that women's informal work is central to the feminization of poverty. So majority that in India, around 95% of the women works in informal sector. So this article talks about that what schemes and what changes in the current scheme and what legislation can be made so as to improve the working condition of women, so as to improve their wages, and so as to empower them to work and move from informal sector to formal sector. So one thing that here it mentions is that the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act 27. So earlier this was not the situation. The leave was very less under maternity benefit scheme, but after the amendment, the leave was doubled, and for the paid maternity leave, which was up to 26 weeks. So now it is 26 weeks for paid maternity leave. However, these benefits are mostly enjoyed by formal sector women. So this maternity benefit is mostly enjoyed by formal sector women, but not for informal sector. What other changes can be done? So India has paid less attention to address concerns around child care support for informal women worker. So for women who work in informal sector, for them child care support is an important issue, and that has not been addressed. So this article talks about various things such as extending the ICDS infrastructure, revitalizing national crash scheme, and improving maternity benefits. So this we will discuss. So here this article talks about expansion of ICDS, that is Integrated Child Development Scheme, in which what this article says that is it this ICDS currently ICDS scheme only early childhood. This focuses on first, it does not cater to children under the age of 3. So currently the ICDS scheme does not cater the children under the age of 3 years. And under the ICDS scheme, Anganwadi center remain open for very few hours. So this article talks about the expansion of the ICDS scheme in a sense that more hours Anganwadi center should be open for more hours, and the care, or you can say the nutritional support or the child care services should be provided for child between 0 to 3 years also. Now revitalizing the crash scheme. That crash scheme is important. So it talks about that building this crash facility around the industrial area. or around the area where these women are working, so that they can give their child for better nutritional and better support, and at the same time they can work in the facility, they can work in the industry where they can earn a minimum wage and without worrying about the care of their children. So this need to be done. And another thing is benefits. So we, in one of our lectures we have discussed about maternity benefit, that on the pregnancy, on the delivery of child, women get x amount of rupees, so as because as a compensation of loss of wages and for nutritional support. So what this article talks about, that under this national food security, entitled pregnant and lacting mother to a cash transfer of at least 6,000. So under National Food Security Act, the eligible woman can get up to 6,000 rupees from the government. However, the scheme notified for this purpose, so a scheme was notified, that was Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandan Yojana. So it has reduced the amount to 5,000. Then this talks about that there are multiple schemes from like Tamil Nadu, Muthulakshmi Maternity, Rajasthan, Indira Gandhi scheme, Gujarat Kasturba Poshan scheme, and then Chhattisgarh Kaushalya scheme. So what they are trying to do, they are trying to bridge this gap by providing more cash incentive to women who are lactating or who have given birth, so that they can meet they get the compensation for the wages they have lost, and also get the better facilities and better nutritional support. So that is about this article. So what this article says, we need to improve ICDS scheme, we need to work on our crash facility, and we need to give more benefit to women, and therefore the to empowering the woman to shift from informal to formal sector, and empowering women to join the labor force, because Indian youth is like this is a demographic time, like India has a large youth population, so that can be better utilized if the youth of the country is empowered. Now this article talks about government fee for half of the private medical seats, CM. So now it has said that for half of the private college seat, the fees will be equivalent to the government college fee. So this you have to remember. Now there are three more article. Labor Ministry launches Donate a Pension Scheme, that we will discuss in detail. This is factual information that you need to remember, that DD India is now an OTT platform. So DD India is now an OTT platform. So Prasar Bharati signs memorandum of understanding with Yup TV to extend channels reach to US and Europe. So you have to remember, DD India is now an OTT platform. It has signed MOU with Yup TV. Yup TV. So now that is factual information. Now the other important article is this article. We'll discuss about no-fly zone, and then we'll discuss about financial action task force. So starting with the second segment, that is explanation of important topics. So the first topic here is sealed covers jurisprudence is appalling. So what this article says, that so what happened, this Media One channel, so this Media One channel was banned, or you can say that was prohibited by the government to stop functioning, because government believes that its news or use of this is spreading threat to national security. So the stand of government was endorsed. So that was the stand of government, that government withdrew its license, or you can say prohibits the functioning of this channel on the ground of national security. And the high court also endorsed with the decision of the state government. So in this context, the judgment sets a dangerous precedent for free speech and procedural justice. So this article says, because on the pretext of national security, this judgment sets a precedent, dangerous precedent for speech of right and procedural justice. So a whole set of rights are directly hit by the ban. So what are these? What rights are being infringed by this ban? So the first is the obvious one, the right to freedom of speech and expression. That is Article 19 of the Constitution of India. And this right of the television channel. The right to association, that is also Article 19, the occupation and business are also impacted. So these are the rights of the media channel that have been impacted, that is speech and expression, association, occupation, and business. Moreover, the viewers also have the right to information, ideas, and information, have a right to receive ideas and information. So this is also important. So in this context, both the rights of the channel as well as the rights of viewers have been in fact impacted under Article 19 because of the ban by the government. All these rights are altogether suspended by the executive. The only contingency in which these rights under Article 19(1) can be interfered with are reasonable restriction. So under Article 19, there is right to freedom of expression, right to occupation, right to business, right to association is provided. However, there are reasonable restriction. So under certain circumstances, the limitations can be imposed, but these limitations must be reasonable. So, however, the trouble emanating from the Media One judgment is that the state need not even show that security is threatened. So, what this article says is that okay, we understand that on the basis of reasonable restriction, on because the constitution provides reasonable restriction, and that can be used. But the problem here is the government every time is using this argument of national security, national security. So that becomes a problematic because there is no clear definition of what national security means and what comes under the national security. And therefore, whenever the government uses this term national security, it becomes a situation like that now this is a matter of national security, therefore nothing can be done, and therefore it comes within the reasonable restriction. So it can conveniently choose the sealed cover route. So in the national security, when anything is said to be national security, in which in that the evidences are not produced in the open situation. However, the evidences are given in the sealed cover route, that it says it can conveniently choose the sealed whenever government says it's a matter of national security, that national security is threatened, therefore government can conveniently choose the sealed cover route. Now, the article says the executive most cogently answers its action, especially when fundamental rights such as free speech and are curtailed. Indian Constitution does not give a free hand to the executive to pass arbitrary orders violating such right. So, under Article 19 or under fundamental right, the executive does not have the power, arbitrary power, to restrict or to abridge the fundamental right of the people. The Supreme Court of India has repeatedly held that judicial review of the executive action is the basic feature of the Constitution. Judicial review of executive action is the basic feature of Constitution of India. That has been said in the case of Minerva Mills also, and in the L. Chandra Kumar case also. If the executive wishes to limit rights, in this case, censor or restrict speech, it must show that test of reasonable restriction is satisfied. So what this article says that, okay, Article 19 provides these rights. At the same time, Article 19 also provides restriction. And these restrictions are reasonable restrictions. So this says that if government wants to limit, government wants to limit or restrict the right, it needs to show that the condition, that the criteria of reasonable restriction is satisfied. This principle is the bedrock of judicial review. So this principle, so if there are reasonable restriction and these reasonable restrictions are satisfied, then sanctions, or you can say restriction, can be imposed. Otherwise it cannot be imposed. And for that, judicial review is important to see that the restrictions imposed are reasonable or not. However, the moment the executive utters national security, courts often permit them to inform the justification in a sealed cover. These reasons are not disclosed to the party whose right are clearly at stake. So whenever government says national security, in that case, what the government gives, the court permit them to inform the justification in a sealed cover, and the reasons are not disclosed to the parties whose right are clearly at stake. So in the case of national security, the reason are not provided to the party whose rights are at stake. So when an action is alleged to have curtailed fundamental right, the court is bound to examine the legality of action through lens of proportionality. So it says when the fundamental rights of a person, or when the fundamental right of person is violated, then this must be examined by the court. The legality of that action must be examined by the court through the lens of proportionality, that the step taken is a proportional step or not. Now, what is this test of proportionality? So there are 4 points. Number one, it is designated for a proper purpose, so that the restriction is for a proper purpose. Second, the measure undertaken to effectuate such a limitation are rationally connected to the fulfillment of that purpose. So the measure taken is rationally connected with the purpose sought to be achieved. Number three, these measures undertaken are the necessary and In that, there are no alternative measures that may similarly achieve the same purpose with a lesser degree of limitation. Third, so these are the measure taken are the necessary, and there is no alternative. There is lack no alternative measure that can be taken in which the limitations are less. So that is third. And number four, there need to be proper relation between the importance of achieving the proper purpose and the social importance of preventing the limitation on the constitutional right. So proper relation has to be established between the purpose that it has sought to achieve and the restrictions that are being placed. So this is about Article 19, and this is about the violation of fundamental right and judicial review, like as a basic structure of the Constitution. Now, third article is Labor Ministry launches Donate a Pension Scheme. So what this article says that Union Labor and Employment Ministry, so this you have to remember which ministry, Union Labor and Employment Ministry, on Monday launched the Donate a Pension Scheme. So which scheme they have launched? Donate a Pension Scheme, which allows any citizen to pay the premium amount on the behalf of unorganized worker under the Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan scheme. So in this, any person, any citizen can donate on behalf of the unorganized worker under Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan scheme. So donate a pension scheme allows a citizen to donate the premium contribution of their immediate support staff such as domestic worker, driver, helper, caregiver, nurse in their household or establishment. So any citizen can give the donation on behalf of the worker. The donor can pay the contribution for a minimum of 1 year with the amount ranging from 662 to 24 rupees a year depending on the age of the beneficiary. So this much amount a donor can pay. Now, what is Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan scheme? So this was launched in the year 2019, allows the organized sector workers between the age of 18 and 40 who earn up to Rs 15,000 a month to enroll by paying a premium amount between 55 rupees and 200 depending on the age. So under this scheme, the organized sector worker will register and will pay a premium of up to pay premium between 55 to 200 rupees per month depending upon the age, that is if what age they are. So that would be matched by the government, and whatever the amount is paid as a premium by that worker, the same amount will be paid by the government in the account of that worker. And on reaching the age of 60, the beneficiaries would get a 3,000 monthly pension. So after reaching the age of 60, the beneficiary will get 3,000 rupees as a pension. So that is all about this. Now we'll discuss another article, that is the complexities for implementing a no-fly zone. So in the news we have been hearing about that Ukraine is appealing to the USA and NATO and European Union to impose a no-fly zone. So what is no-fly zone? So why this was in news? So the NATO Secretary General stated that the organization would not designate the Ukrainian airspace as no-fly zone, which he said would lead to full-fledged war. So NATO Secretary said we would not declare Ukraine fly zone as a no-fly zone, Ukraine airspace as a no-fly zone, because it will lead to war in the Europe and it will involve the killings of many people and the suffering of human beings. So what is no-fly zone? So in simple terms, a no-fly zone refers to a particular airspace wherein aircrafts, excluding those permitted by an enforcement agency, are barred from flying. So suppose this is Ukraine and this here is Russia and this is like Europe. And so if NATO organization imposes a no-fly zone on Ukraine with the permission of Ukraine. So when this happens, then the NATO country will put their forces in the Ukraine or around the Ukraine. And in this case, since now Ukraine is a no-fly zone, so only those flights which are permitted by the NATO or the agency which designate no-fly zone can fly in this airspace, and any other flight which flies in this airspace will be taken down by the enforcement agency. So if NATO imposes no fly zone in Ukraine, then if Russian aircraft comes near the Ukrainian airspace, then it will be the responsibility of NATO to take down the flight of the Russia. So that is why NATO says this will lead to the war between the Russia and the West. That is why the NATO and other Western countries are not willing to impose no-fly zone in Ukraine. So what about the non-combatant combat situation? So no-fly zone. So in non-combat situation, no-fly zones can be imposed permanently and temporarily over sensitive installation or for a high-profile events like Olympics. So this is mentioned in the Article 39 of the UN Charter. Article 39 of UN Charter, UNSC, Article 39 of the UNSC to determine the probable existence. So Article 13, under Article 39, it is UNSC is empowered to determine the probable existence of any threat to peace and security, or you can say an act of aggression. And if there is such threat or there is a probability of such an aggression, it suggests further measure, if required, are to be carried out in accordance to Article 41 and 42 to restore international peace and security. And if there is a such threat or there is an act of aggression, then under various articles, like they can take action to ensure peace and security. Now the last article is the list of FATF and Pakistan position. So now Pakistan is placed under gray list and is constantly on the watch list of FATF. That is why this topic is in news, but that is not important. What is important is about FATF. So the Financial Action Task Force is an international watchdog. International watchdog. This is an international watchdog for financial crimes such as money laundering and terror financing. So the FATF, so this is, you have to remember that Financial Action Task Force deals with money laundering and terror financing. These are the two things. The FATF was established at the G7 summit of 1989 in Paris. So it was established at the G7 summit of 1989 in Paris over concerns of the member country about growing money laundering activity. So now since we are discussing about, so it was established in 1989 at the summit of G7. So we'll discuss about G7 countries. So G7, there are 7 countries. First is Japan. Second is USA. Third is Italy. Fourth is Canada. Fifth is UK. And then sixth is Germany. Seventh is France. So this is, you have to remember about the countries in G7. Now FATF currently has 39 members. So there are 39 members in FATF. The decision-making body of the FATF is known as its plenary, which meets thrice a year. So that is not important. So it includes, the meeting includes members and observer organizations such as World Bank, some of the Office of UN and Regional Developments Bank. So what is the objective or function of FATF? First thing I've told you, it is a watchdog for terror financing and money laundering. Also, the FATF sets standards or recommendation for countries to achieve in order to plug the holes in its financial system. So FATF sets standards that the country has to meet, and FATF also helps countries in ensuring that their institution work properly, so that the activities such as money laundering and terror financing can be reduced or prohibited. So this is the importance of FATF. So it works in the area of money laundering and terror financing. So it gives recommendation, it gives suggestion, it helps countries. And when these are not met, when the countries do not meet these standard, or countries defy these standard, then they are put under the list of, there are two lists, that is blacklist and gray list. So this we will discuss. So the gray countries, so the countries in gray list are those that are actively working with FATF to counter criminal financial activity. So in the countries, those who are in gray list, they are working with the FATF to counter anti-criminal activities such as money laundering and terror financing. In their case, the watchdog does not tell other members to carry out due diligence measures vis-a-vis the listed country, but does tell them to take into account the risk such country poses. So in gray list, the country work with FATF to counter such activities. However, it does not tell other members that you should also conduct due diligence. However, it tells them that you need to take into account about this country, about this country and the risk that this country possesses. And for blacklist, it means countries designated by the FATF's high risk jurisdiction and subject to call for action. So these are the high risk jurisdiction, and therefore they are subject to call for action. In their case, the countries have considerable deficiency in their anti-money laundering and counter terror financing regimes. For such countries, the body calls on members and non-members to apply enhanced due diligence. For the country in blacklist, they are the countries where this activities of money laundering and terror financing are at rise, and the domestic measures are not adequate to deal with the money laundering and terror financing activity. And in fact, or you can say the government of that country is also actively supporting these activities. So in that case, the FATF tell the other member countries to conduct their due diligence and in most serious cases apply countermeasures such as sanctions. So currently two countries, North Korea and Iran are on the blacklist. So these are the two countries that are on the blacklist. So in this we have discussed about what is FATF, when it was established. We have discussed about G7, we have discussed about gray list and blacklist. So first there is a gray list, and if the country which are in gray list do not still follow the recommendation of FATF and do not improve their do not improve their anti-money laundering and anti-terror financing regimes, then they will be later placed in the blacklist. And when the countries are in the blacklist, then there are sanctions imposed from the other member countries as well as from the other international organization. So this says the being listed under FATF's 2 list makes it difficult for countries to get aid from organizations like IMF, Asian Development, and European Union. So this is the importance of FAT. This is the importance of these lists. That if the country is in these lists, then it will make them difficult. It will make it difficult for the countries to get financial aid from these organizations. Now we'll discuss 5 important questions. Question number 1, FATF was established in which year? Your option are 1989, 1992, 1957, 2002. The correct option is 1989. Question number 2, Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana launched in which year? Your option are 2019, 2022, 2020, 2021, none of the above. The correct option is 2019. Question number 3, which of the following are G7 countries? Your options are Japan, Germany, France, all of the above. And the correct option is all of the above. Question number 4, which of the following countries are under blacklist of FATF? Your options are North Korea, Iran, both of the above, none of the above. Both of the above. Question number 5, which of the following is the theme of this year's Women's Day? Your options are gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow, gender equality, better opportunities, none of the above. The correct option is A. So that's all for this session. Stay logical with Vidikya, your best pal in CLAT Preps.